Hello and welcome to the Yarnings Podcast. I'm Christine and I'll be your host. This is episode 97. I'm calling it something about a sweater series part 1. It's a little sneak peek there that it is a part 1. It is Monday, November 7th, and here in Vancouver, Washington, there is sunshine, and I think it said 63 degrees right now. It has definitely had some rainy periods. On Saturday when we were out and about, it was raining rather hard, but right now it is clear and sunshiny, and I can see a little bit of the reflection in my glasses from the window, but I think that will be okay. I'm liking that I can see the sunshine out there. So let's move into some life stories. I am working on getting organized for the end of the year. It is firmly into November now, and that means holidays, and that usually means more busyness and things going on. And so I wanted to start out November, even though it's still early. I wanted to start it out feeling a little organized, and I have been doing just that this week. I rotated some of the clothes in my closet. I've done some decorating, and just overall trying to feel a little more gathered. So then beyond that, I've had some fun time out with my husband, and I am starting a series of posts here on sweaters in honor of NaKniSweMo, and more on that later. So yeah, it's been a good week, and I am hopeful that this will be a good way to start off November with a series of podcasts planned. So let's move into some yarnings and adventures in knitting. I'm working on dishcloths. I'll tell you a little bit more about those, but they were movie watching dishcloths. And during the movie, right before the movie, I cast on just a very simple square dishcloth rather than doing Grandma's favorite, where it's a little harder to feel my yarn overs, but I knit the entire thing and bound it off during the movie, and then I cast on a second one, which that's fairly fast for me, and it's not. I was surprised that I made it into the second ball. So my kitchen has been using only knitted dishcloths since the remodel-a-rama, and some of them are getting a little dingy, so I think I will replace them with some new ones. I feel bad throwing away my first really interesting dishcloth, and it was a garterlac, so it was an entrelac dishcloth, just so that I could get the idea of entrelac down. But I worked really hard on that, but it is really, it's wearing out, and it's not as pretty as it once was. So maybe I just need to knit another garterlac. I haven't done any entrelac for a while. So that's what I'm knitting on, because that's easy and I can do it right now. The next work in progress is my Kaylee Walks on the Sun Walker shawl. Oh, I'm in the middle of a row, but that's okay. Pull it out anyhow. So, last week I was pretty close to being done with the colors, I think. I have moved on to this side. The kids next door are happily yelling. Hopefully that won't be too loud for you. This is what the lace looks like. And I am really liking it. So Kaylee's parasol interrupted by brown coat lace. The yarn, the pattern is Melanie Berg's Skywalker, and it is for the Big Bad Bergalong. And the yarn is my hand spun Hobbledehoy Batlings and Woolmiza for the brown. I have a nice big skein of the Woolmiza and that much left of Kaylee's parasol. This is the green part of it. So I'll use that once I'm done with the lace. And the lace shouldn't take up this whole ball, but I might make it longer than it calls for just because I'd love it to be a nice generous shawl. So we will see how long I feel like doing the lace. It's not that hard now that I've gotten used to it, but there are interesting transitions at the beginning and the end that take a little more thought. So I do have to pay a little bit more attention than I thought I would. But that has kind of taken a back seat to my new work in progress. Let me show you these first. So this yarn is Lammy Toes, her Sweet Pea Merino in Botanical Baddies. And this was a gift from my friend Heather. And I have little baby toes. Okay, they're a little longer than baby toes now. There we go. So I have almost completed my toes, I think, on last count. And I love, 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 love how this is knitting up. Isn't that beautiful? I would really love a top in that colorway. I really like it. I am going to be doing, let's see if I have a picture of it. Watsonia, no, Euglacia Watsonia, I think. Nope, I don't have a picture, I just printed the chart. This is a pattern by Damien Allman, and it is honeybee cables. So, because it's cables, and I haven't done a lot of cables on socks, I'm going to increase a little bit more than I normally do, and then try it on after the first inch or so, just to make sure that it is not too tight. Jump teddy bags, kitchen counter crafter. And my new thing. You guys are going to be astonished at how much I've done on this, I'm sure. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about NaKniSweMo in a bit, but I swatched for my gauge. It's a little less red than it's showing. It's definitely more of a blue tone purple in real life. Yeah, more like that. But when it's under these warm lights that are over top of my desk, it's making it a little more red purple. This is the Princess Fiona, which I'm calling my Purple Princess Christine. I have a lot of ends here, so let's see how I can best do it so that you guys don't see so many ends right in the front. So that's what the front of this sweater looks like. This was one where you knit the back to a certain point, then you do the fronts individually picked up, and then start joining it together. And it has a lace panel in the side. And I decided to follow some people in the Ravelry, some Ravelry users who have done the lace in another color. So my slap bracelet ruler just snapped me. That means rather than doing it in the round, in order to get the intarsia of the lace, I have switched to work flat after the point the lace started. So I've got a little bit that's in the round for stability, and then I'm doing it flat I will pick up a band on one side of this and make it a faux button band, and put buttons down the side. So this is going to be really cool. I am really loving this. This is in Blue Moon Fiber Arts Socks That Rock medium weight. The purple is Saber, which was a Rhinebeck exclusive colorway from a fairy yarn mother. And the dark blue color, almost black, is a Socks That Rock lightweight. I don't think that's going to be a problem on the bigger needles. The gauge is not that much different, and because it's lace anyhow, I think it's going to be fine. I don't think there's going to be any problem with having a lightweight and a medium weight. But this was leftover from a shawl I did, and it's a mill end, so it's not a colorway with a name. But I have spent much of my time on this week. I cast it on Wednesday, which was November 2nd, so the second day of NaKniSweMo, and I put a lot of work into it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend I didn't have quite as much time because I was busy doing other things, but I am super excited about this project, and it's in one of my Stitch by Jessalyn bags. Okay, needle adjacent, I'm going to be knitting a hat. I think I showed you guys these pretty tree buttons last week from my Oregon Flock and Fiber. And I might knit it out of some Barocco Vintage in this dark blue colorway. It feels a little boring. Truthfully, I would much rather knit a tonal blue than a solid blue. So I might break down and buy some yarn for this hat. If I'm going to knit something for somebody that I like a lot, I'd rather knit something that I like how it looks. And this will probably show off the pattern of the For Good hat nicely, but I think it would be nicer if it was a tonal. So I'm kind of contemplating on that. This was the best choice in my stash of a worsted weight that didn't already have, like, that's not part of a sweater quantity. And this is kind of part of a sweater quantity because I have multiple colors of this. So, yeah, we will see. And then as it gets closer to the holidays, I want to cast on something in both of these. This will be a cowl for the Knitmore Girls Oi with the Poodles knit-along. And this is going to be some kind of a shawl, but I haven't picked which one. It is almost 600 yards, so maybe another Melanie Bird for the Big Bad Burgalong. Okay, so spinning a tail. Another thing that I started this last week was Back in the Saddle spin along or craft along with Anne, who I've met at ZK the first year. And she encouraged people to pick up a craft that they were wanting to do that they had set aside. So my spinning definitely has been in that category. I had spun the one skein, and I'd plied, and I had plied part of this one, but not very far. So I picked up my plying, I finished skein 2, and I've started skein 3. And what I'm doing so that I get a better color mix for how that barber poles is I've used half. I originally took half of a skein off onto another ball, and that way it's the middle of this one and the beginning of this one going together. So it's giving me some really pretty stuff. So I have spun many of the days so far this month, so that feels good. and knitting community. I'm kind of putting this here because that kind of makes sense. So my NaKniSweMo topic of the week. So while NaKniSweMo is going on, I wanted to talk a little more about sweaters. I talk about sweaters all the time, but let's do this in a little more organized fashion. I wrote out some areas of sweaters that I wanted to talk about, and hopefully this will be interesting to you to see how I pick things, what kind of resources I use when I'm picking things, and that kind of stuff. So, why am I doing NaKniSweMo? This will be my 3rd year doing it. And prior to that, I hadn't knit very many tops. I mean, I'd knit some, but not to wear on a day-to-day basis like I do now. The first year that I did NaKniSweMo was the first year that I really was into knitting myself tops, being body positive enough to believe that I was worthy of knitting myself tops at whatever size I was at. But I also really love the joy that comes from knitting along with other people. So not just NaKniSweMo, but NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, being able to work along with other people who are challenging themselves and just feeling part of a community. Even if I'm not directly doing a knit along where I'm checking in with anybody every time I knit on it or whatever, even just hashtagging something with NaKniSweMo makes me feel like I am part of a larger knitting community that is excited about knitting together. Ideally, I would be posting in some message board with my progress and staying in touch with my friends who are writing their novels and doing a little bit more community building. Sometimes that just takes a little more time than I have. So I am happy for just knowing in my mind, knowing that I am posting my progress and cheering on the people whose pictures show up on my screen. And sometimes it's just a double tap that I like it on their Instagram post. And sometimes it's a little more, but that's kind of my rationale behind doing it. And it feels good to challenge myself because my sweater mojo may have slid just a little bit. I didn't do quite as many this year as I did last year, and that's okay. But knowing that November was coming up, I knew that I would be working on a sweater. So for this week's topic, I want to do a little bit of intro about sweater prep, and then a little bit more about fabric attributes. So sweater prep. What comes first for me, a pattern or a yarn? Sometimes it could be either one. The Princess Fiona pattern has been in my queue for a while, and I didn't know what yarn I was going to use for it because it called for sport weight, and I don't have a lot of sport weight. And then talking to Lane when she was visiting here, Lane Nerd, she had talked about just having done the Princess Fiona, and it reminded me, oh yeah, I had loved hers when it was done, and that just clicked for me. It seemed like the perfect project. So I did some research in my stash and realized, oh yes, I do have some sport weight, and that was this. And I have worked with this yarn before, so this isn't a super big swatch. I'm dropping, aha, there's my darning needle I was looking for. You stay right there. I have knit with this before in other projects, so I didn't feel the need to knit a super large gauge swatch. But when I'm serious about my gauge swatches, I remember to put holes that show what needle size I swatched it on. So there's 6 little holes there. It's just yarn over knit 2 together. And that gives me a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like on a size 6 needle. And then I'll put it on my pile of swatches, and maybe someday that'll help me again. I'll probably re-swatch if I ever need to use this yarn again. But it's a nice keepsake. I really like the feeling of this. And so it was a really good match for pattern and project, even though I didn't have quite enough of this yarn for the pattern. And that's when I get creative and start searching a little bit more for what modifications other people have done with multiple colors, because I don't buy a lot of sweaters quantities. And being able to use some single skeins in that way to fill in for something or to stripe something makes it a little more likely that I will be able to knit that sweater. So in this instance, the pattern came first before the yarn, but sometimes it's the opposite. So researching for pattern and then looking to see what yarns I might have that are options, or researching for yarns and seeing what patterns I have that might fit that. Sometimes that means searching patterns in my library that I've already purchased and not knit. Sometimes it means searching through my favorite designers. You can like a designer in Ravelry and then search just your favorites. And that's a pretty good indicator for me. If I have liked a designer, I'm probably going to enjoy knitting another one of their patterns. I don't like every designer I've ever knit from, but some of the key ones, I find that I'm drawn to their patterns. And so that's a good way for me to search. Or searching my cues, searching my favorites, that kind of thing. Ravelry is wonderful for this. So that's kind of the sweater prep I do. Yarn winding and all that too. And so now I want to talk a little more about fabric attributes. What are fabric attributes? So cables, lace. The first year that I did NaKniSweMo, 2014, I did cables and lace. So I did the Alta sweater by Amy Herzog, and that has a big cowl neck. It's got cables and lace, and it was a good challenge for me to do more cabling because I'd not done a lot of cabling by that point. Last year, I did Fair Isle. I designed Fair Isle for a yoke with my hand spun. So Fair Isle, that would be another fabric attribute. And fabric attribute is a wording that Ravelry uses. And so this year I am doing lace and intarsia. Intarsia is kind of an attribute of the fabric. It's kind of like Fair Isle. They aren't necessarily how a fabric feels, but they are a good definition of something that makes a fabric unique to me. So those are all things that's something that I have specifically looked for. What could I do different this year? What could I do that's not like the other 2 NaKniSweMos? What could I do that would stretch myself? I had originally thought perhaps a all-over lace, but that sounded like a little too much of a stretch for my brain capacity this year. I would still really like to do an all-over lace sweater like Pomme de Pin, like some of the botanical knits sweaters. It's all in an envelope. I can't pull it out. Some of those kind of things, but I didn't quite have the yarn that I wanted to use for any of those either. So maybe that will be another year. I think that I could still do lace another year and still feel like it was a different category. There are so many different kinds of fabric attributes you could choose from. And sometimes the yarn will do a lot of that work for you, for how it looks or how it feels. So I think that there are still many other attributes I'd like to try. But that's where I'm at this year. So this year I'm doing a nice stockinette, but a lace insert in my sweater, and I'm really excited about that. So that will conclude our NaKniSweMo topic for this week, and I will bring you some more insights into my brain. If you have questions about how I pick a sweater or what kinds of fabric attributes that you love looking for when you are searching for a pattern, I would love to have that discussion on this week's episode thread in the Ravelry group. So how about we move into some sagas of geekery? And now playing. It's over here. I got a new game. This is Oh My Goods. It is by Alexander Feister, and I have enjoyed some of his games quite a bit in the past. The art may look familiar to people who have played a lot of games too. I think it's the same artist that does Agricola and Caverna and a lot of other things. I think. I didn't look that up. Now I'm just saying that off the top of my head. It doesn't say on the back of here, but I think I looked it up. So this is a new game I got, and we've played this twice this week. And you are a worker. There's the cute little girl worker and the cute little boy worker. And you're a worker, and you are working buildings in your farm. So this is the char burner, and all of them have German words on them because it was originally a German game. And when you put your worker on this building, if you can have 2 stone and a wood, you can make, this one shows 2 cards, or if you do it inefficiently, you could just have 1 stone, 1 wood, and make 1 card. And that turns into money. So each card you have on it is 1 point. So that's kind of the basicest part. And then you have rounds where you are putting out different kinds of cards, and you continue putting them upside down, putting them out until you get 2 little sunshines. So the cards randomly have little sunshines on them to mark sunrise, sunset, and do 2 phases, and you are attempting to get 8 buildings in front of 1 person. There are other people you can hire. So if you had already put a green card, a light gray card, and 2 dark gray cards in front of you, then you could hire this guy, and he would be 1 more worker, like this guy, that can help you produce. So it is an entirely card-based game, and you are producing in each of these rounds until you get 8. Whoever, the first person getting 8 cards in front of you, and then you finish up. And it goes about 45 minutes, half hour, I guess. We probably could get to, but we aren't quite that fast yet. And buy the buildings, and that's how many points it's worth. And it's just a really nice little production thing. And there are so many different kinds of cards that come up. So this is a cattle farm that needs wheat and fleece. That's fleece down there to turn into a cattle ranch. And yeah, it is a really great little game, and I'm glad that we picked this one up. We got it when we went to Oakland Endgame on our trip, and it is a very nice little game. So I know this will be one that we pull out often, and plus it's in a nice small little box, so it's easy to bring with. This would be a good one to bring when I go on my next trip. So that's Oh My Goods. I'll link to it in the show notes. We played that twice this week. We also played Roll for the Galaxy, all of its wonderful dice. And on my phone I've been playing Avengers Academy, and then I just started playing Marvel Zoom Zoom, and they're those little poofy characters. It's all the different Marvel and Disney characters all are part of this world, but it's a very cute little game. Excuse me. For now watching, I'm rewatching a variety of things. The Ending Gilmore Girls, Scandal, The West Wing. I've been watching The West Wing as I listen to the podcast. But then we also got to watch all of the episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. since the beginning of the season. And I watched Conviction, which has Haley Atwell, who was Agent Carter. And I wasn't as enamored with it as I wanted to be. I really was excited about her in a new role, but I'm not sure that the writing is really doing it for me. So we'll see. I might give it another couple episodes. I watched 4 of them on the ABC app on my Apple TV. And the thing that is on the interwebs today is that it is the 15th anniversary today of the Buffy episode Once More with Feeling, which was the musical Buffy episode, and I loved that episode, and it's been 15 years, and I still listen to it and know most of the words to it. I am a Whedon geek, it is true. For Fanciful Chatter, I am working on bringing joy to my house with some colorfulness and lights in my bedroom. So my husband kind of came up with a good idea for me, and that was to get a tree or something to put in the corner of our bedroom that I could decorate. And decorate I did. So it is decorated up for fall right now. It has some bronzy colored leaves and gourds and some bright fiery orange leaves, and I got 2 cute little ornaments out of the deep clearance because apparently fall is completely over at the craft stores. So we got a really good deal. And while we were at it, we bought our Christmas tree for downstairs. Our other one was so big and just it wasn't working for our shape of our house, and so now we're going to have a nice skinny tree, and we've got that now, and we don't have to worry about looking for one. We are done with that. So now I can just enjoy bringing the joyfulness into the house with the decorating rather than stressing about where are we going to find a tree that I like we did last year, and we ended up with just a little teeny small one, and it is sitting over there, and that needs to go somewhere as well. But so decorating. I am wearing, this is my Urbanity shawl, which is one of my designs with little skyscraper looking drop stitches. I also have on my necklace that is Mount Hood with cherry blossoms. I think it's Dancing Huron is the artist. And this one just kind of tucks really nicely because it's so small. It needs to be blocked again to stretch it back out. It kind of scrunches itself up, but it tucks really nicely in my straps of my Entangled Vines tunic that I think you guys saw, but not with the black ribbon in it. I've also got on one of my new Besame. This is the 1930s Noir Red that I'm wearing, and I had tried these when I was at my friend Rena's house. She had little matchsticks of red velvet, and it goes on so nicely, and I really like how it feels on my lips. So when they came out with this, mini set of little bullet-shaped tubes, I decided I wanted to try them because it's got 5 great colors from 5 eras: 30s, late 30s, 40s, late 60s, and 70s, and that will be lots of fun. So that's what I'm wearing. For Book of Cooking, I made pumpkin oatmeal last week. I think I may have mentioned that last week, but I got to eat on that all week, and I will probably start a new batch. It's already 12:30. I might be a little late for lunch today. But the plan was to make oatmeal so that I can eat on that again all week. Maybe I'll have something different today and make it on Wednesday. We made open-faced turkey sandwiches, which is always lots of fun, but we did it a little bit more easy. Rather than doing mashed potatoes, we did baked potatoes, and that made it a little less work-intensive to prepare. And we had Harry and David stuffing and cranberry relish to go on the side of that, and that was nice. I am eating butternut squash, as many as I can get, as long as they're in season. Today, what's in my teacup, which is actually Eric's teacup because mine was dirty, I am trying Celestial Tea House's Dirty Chai, which is tea bags that are chai spiked with espresso. It is really good. So I put a little bit of sugar-free vanilla syrup and a little bit of pumpkin pie creamer in it, just a touch. And I really am liking how that tastes so much that I went and filled it up with some more water. And the last thing on the Book of Cooking is this library book that I got out, Seriously Delish, Recipes for People Who Totally Love Food. So she has some of the similar philosophies as me, where you add really good flavors that go together to things, and don't be shy of adding more flavors. I really enjoyed looking through this book. I think I am going to pick up a used copy of it to add to my collection. Okay, happiness continues. I read a really good blog post this morning that I wanted to share with you guys. It is a post from Carla, who is the author of the Wick book, which is on the floor. Of course, what you can when you can. She is one of the authors, Carla Bernberg. And the post was about food with benefits and how her and her daughter were talking about what benefits different foods have, rather than saying good food, bad food, healthy food, unhealthy food. It doesn't have to be that black and white. A cauliflower has a lot of vitamins. You might not want to just eat cauliflower all day long. You shouldn't eat. I shouldn't just eat cauliflower. Hamburgers have a protein. I shouldn't eat hamburgers all day long. That kind of mindset is really positive to me, to not look at it in black and white. And I really liked how she talked with her daughter about the benefits food have and talk about foods with benefits. So I will link to that in the blog post. And at yoga this last week, my yoga teacher that I love read a quote from a Pilates teacher that resonated with me, and I had to go and find it to be able to share it with you guys because I couldn't remember the exact wording. It is by Bob Likens, and he said, "An inspiring teacher works to form a sharp mind, a warm heart, and a vibrant body." And I want to put into that an inspiring student. So the inspiring yoga student in me wants to form a sharp mind, a warm heart, and a vibrant body. I think those are attainable goals. I love gathering information about things. That is part of my personality. I love that I am a person who is warm and kind to the people she calls friends. And not only am I a vibrant, colorful person, I like the idea that I am able to do things. I am able to do what I can when I can. It's not just, am I vibrant enough that I can run a marathon? That's not in the cards for me, nor do I want it to be. But am I vibrant enough to be as active as I am able to? I think so. I think I can be. And so I really liked that quote. It just resonated well with me. Okay, we are 41 minutes in, and it's only been a week since I talked to you guys last, so I must have really felt inspired to think about things that I wanted to share with you. To fill out my list of show notes beforehand, and it feels really good to be back with you guys again so soon after the summer was a challenge to find the time. So, let's see. You can connect with me on the internet. I am Christine with a K on Ravelry. I am KDLB, just the letters, on Instagram. The Yarnings podcast group is where you can find any discussions about the podcast. The Facebook group posts links when new episodes are up. And the show notes with links to everything that I talk about can be found at yarningspodcast.com, all squished together. All right, so until next time, that's the story. Bye.